Good afternoon, everyone. It is Sunday, March 27th, and we have two extremes which are developing here on the weather map today. A powerful winter storm is in the forecast for this upcoming week. It has not developed yet. Before we get there, we're dealing with record warmth that has developed over in the desert Southwest. Records were broken in Phoenix, Arizona on Friday. High temperatures hit 96 degrees, previous record 93 degrees set back in 1988 and again in 1990. Other counties also broke records. We're dealing with extraordinarily dry air as well all over the place. The extraordinarily dry air is not all over the place actually. It's located in Texas, especially Rio Grande Village, Texas, where dew points are down to very close to zero. In fact, last night dew points dropped to 10 below zero. Relative humidity down to 3% in those locations. Wildfire danger is extreme, very extreme. Things could spread rapidly. There cannot be better conditions for that. But it's really dry in many areas throughout the world. In fact, it's difficult to find places which are humid. Even in Florida, we're dealing with a lack of humidity as dew points have dropped into the 50s. There's probably some fire dangers out there as well. And throughout the world, it's difficult to find humid places. You know, you have to go onto the west coast of Africa. You get into dew points in the 70s. I think the most humid area in the world right now is the east coast of India, especially the southeast coast. You could find dew points in the upper 70s. I have not been able to locate a dew point of 80 degrees, but dew points in the upper 70s is very humid with air temperatures in the 80s. We're dealing with heat indices about 100 degrees, maybe even a little bit hotter. Those air temperatures as you go further into India for afternoon highs are just scorching hot, but it's going to get worse. Significantly worse by the end of the week. There is a question, however, which we'll deal with that question later on. But for right now, back to this unseasonably warm air. Might be uncomfortable as this air mass is over in the desert Southwest. But as that air mass translates east, more moisture gets added into the air, and it's going to be a beauty for places in Wyoming, Colorado. Record warmth expected there for Monday. High temperatures warming into the low 80s. Scottsbluff, Nebraska, high temperatures going into the low 80s. That's going to tie the record, 82 degrees. North Platte, Nebraska, dealing with high temperatures in the low 70s. Much of the area for Kansas, southern Nebraska, 70s. Plenty of 80s as well, and we'll see those high temperatures remaining in the mid-90s for Texas, for parts of Texas, Falcon Lake, Texas, Rio Grande Village, Texas, high temperatures in the mid-90s. Areas which have more humidity will have a harder time reaching those highs. In fact, they won't. Houston, Texas, highs in the low 80s. More water vapor in the air, the less efficient the sun is at heating things up. Although as we proceed into the summer, the warmer the nighttime lows are. But nonetheless, high temperatures still remain significantly lower when you're dealing with more humidity. Okay, now, here's the biggest, the most exciting story of the week is we have something taking place, something which I haven't seen on the weather map here in the Midwest for many, many years. We have an intense low pressure system. According to the European computer model, it's almost hard to believe this is happening. But the European computer model is the most accurate model, especially for something like this. And this is just a monster storm. We have low pressure. It's going to start off, it's moving into the Kansas area. It comes in off the Pacific Ocean, actually. It's going to bring thunderstorms to the Phoenix area Monday night. That's not a definite, but there should be some thunderstorms. It's not going to be 100% widespread, but thunderstorms in the area. Some forecasts indicate 1/4 of an inch to 1/2 an inch of rain for the Phoenix, Arizona area. There could be some question mark on that. Possible dust storms in Arizona right before that precipitation comes through. And then things are really going to cool off on Tuesday. In fact, well below normal temperatures on Tuesday. Rain, thunderstorms on and off throughout Tuesday. Although probably there will be some sunshine as well, with high temperatures probably making it to 70. Some forecasts don't even think the high will hit 70 in Phoenix. Things will warm back up a little bit after that. That brings also cold air into the West Coast in general. But that low pressure system then moves off to the east, and it hits the Kansas area, and it starts to really develop. initially it's a little bit complex to figure out what the thing is doing for Tuesday and Wednesday. Whatever it's doing, though, it remains strong. It's weakening, it's strengthening, but then it's clear what it's doing by Wednesday into Thursday. That thing intensifies to like an oh my gosh level. 29.3, okay, it starts off like that. That's pretty strong. 29.2, 29.1, 29.0. It's still in the Midwest at 29.0. It's still going, intensifying. You look on the European computer model, an accurate computer model, it doesn't exaggerate. That doesn't exaggerate. 28.9, 28.8. It's just going down and down. And it's in the upper Midwest. It's over the Great Lakes area by that point. People like in International Falls, Minnesota, Thunder Bay in Canada, which is right on one of the Great Lakes. Those places are gonna. This is the storm. This is the storm that you're waiting for. I mean, this is. How can you get better than that? We have copious amounts of Gulf moisture. The sun is a powerhouse this time of the year. You really can't get stronger sun filtering into a winter storm than this. You have bitterly cold Arctic air on the backside. You have strong sun, Gulf moisture. You know, forecasts are calling for 12 to 18 inches of snow for Thunder Bay, but Thunder Bay, it sounds like thunder, right? If there is such a thing as thunder snow, which there is, I mean, this is the storm. This is the storm we're talking. The barometric pressure dropping under 29. 29.2 is the threshold when we start to forecast 12 to 18 inches of snow in the bullseye. So, you know, it's going to be well under that. So 12 to 18 inches is what some of these weather maps are saying in the bullseye, but I think it's going to be more than that. I think we're going to see more than 2 feet, 24. I think it will be 2 to 3 feet of snow. 2 to 3 feet of snow for, of course, there's a lot more that goes into forecasting the snow totals than just barometric pressure alone. But realize we have the copious amounts of Gulf moisture. Realize we have a hot air mass on the one end of the storm system. Brutal heat. We also, this time of the year, by the way, we're already dealing with that dry front that just situates itself over Texas. It's going to intensify later on this week. Severe thunderstorms developing over in the St. Louis area, all the way from the Gulf of Mexico northward up the Mississippi River for Tuesday. Temperatures are going to be real warm there, highs in the low 70s. Temperatures in the 70s throughout Illinois. You know, if those thunderstorms can hold off in the St. Louis area, St. Louis has a tendency to just to get into an 80-degree mark, like in these types of situations. It's going to be dependent upon the clouds, if it can do that or not. The warmth is forecast to make it into the Chicago area as well. A thunderstorm as well. High temperatures, mid-60s, perhaps low 70s. This is even for the northern suburbs. So this storm front's going to be pushing up and over the Chicago area. Realize the storm system, we're expecting probably a half an inch to an inch of rain here in the Chicago area for this midweek storm. We're on the warm side of the system. At the very end, we get that cold rain. It could be a question whether the precipitation changes over to snow at the last minute, but it's not really so clear. We will have much colder air that comes in on the backside of the storm system. So before this storm system arrives, we have much warmer air that comes in. Before the warm air comes in, we're dealing with an unseasonably cold air mass over the Chicago area right now. And it's almost hard to believe what the forecast temperatures are for tomorrow. It's even colder than today. High temperatures in the low 30s. Winds are right off the lake. And high temperatures today, mid-30s. Tomorrow, highs in the low 30s. On the East Coast, Baltimore, Maryland, high temperatures only in the upper 30s. As we go into the early part of this week, temperatures are going to shoot up by the mid part of this week, going into the 70s for Baltimore, Maryland. That warmth will be making it all the way up north. We have highs going into the mid-70s for Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. This is by Thursday. By Thursday, we're going to see that Lakewood, New Jersey, temperatures going into the 70s. That's by Thursday. Until we get there, we're going to have to deal with some cold. In fact, some of these cities, Portland, Oregon, Caribou, Maine, are going to be seeing probably the coldest night for the season. Probably this will be the final cold night. We're not going to get this cold again until next winter. Temperature dropping into the teens and 20s. Really cold stuff later on this week. And we get that warm up I don't really think it's going to be making it into Maine. But Lakewood, New Jersey, we're going to see those highs. Atlantic City, New Jersey, highs go into the 70s. New York, 60s, maybe low 70s. In Baltimore, Maryland, forecast highs in the low 70s. But Baltimore, again, you could always pull off in 80 degrees. If the winds come off those mountains in just the right way, you can get downslope winds, which could increase those temperatures to approximately 80 degrees. But the forecast models just show low 70s at the moment. We have a severe weather risk for many states. In fact, if you look on the European computer model, once again, for the thunderstorm activity, just explosive thunderstorm development on Tuesday evening, especially over Texas, just west of Dallas. And, that's in the evening hours. So as that line of storms, whatever, pushes east, you're going to run into the overnight hours. Things tend to weaken at that point. But I think Tuesday night would be a good night to have a weather radio on, a weather radio, not the cell phone, but a weather radio with an alert system, because these types of we have the dry line, the cold, we have all this stuff combining together. Perfect scenario for tornadoes. That's going to be Tuesday night. In the middle of the night, this is also an area that's prone to tornadoes. People would want to have a weather radio on for that night and should not mind getting woken up in the middle of the night to an alert, because this could be a life-threatening, God forbid, situation taking place this Tuesday night. This is a major, major storm, probably the most exciting storm of the year. You have all these things coming together, and those snow lovers will get to enjoy it. People living in Thunder Bay, International Falls, Minnesota, Minneapolis, Minnesota, probably 6 to 12 inches over there. For Minneapolis, it's already starting to get complicated, trying to figure out the precipitation types. Some of it might fall as rain, some of it not. Some areas will be getting significant ice storms with power outages with this upcoming storm. But again, this is a low pressure system of 28.8 eventually. This is huge stuff. So I think this is a blizzard if there ever was one. I mean, this is really it's really big time stuff happening in the upper Midwest, and it's something that this is going to be quite some excitement going on over there. Going over into Africa, we have intense heat, probably as usual over there in the a city called Kifa in Central Africa. Temperatures at forecast, the hot spot. Temperatures are forecast to go up to 118 degrees. Let's see, Yad Soledispo is about 117 according to some sheets. According to some opinions, it's to translate it into English. It's not necessary to translate that into English because that it doesn't add anything to the forecast here. So 118 degrees Fahrenheit in Celsius. That's going high above 45 degrees Celsius. Probably close to, you're looking at 48 degrees Celsius. Good possibility, 48 degrees Celsius for some of those cities in Africa. We have a heat wave headed for South Eretz Yisrael, South Israel. Eretz Yisrael is the Hebrew way to say Israel. Anyways, South Israel and Eilat, we have a heat wave headed there, a solid 3-4 days with high temperatures well into the 90s. It would not be surprising to see a 100 degree plus reading here and there in the south part of Israel. It will also be getting warm elsewhere in the country, but in Israel and in India, the real scorching heat comes for next weekend. The question is, there's tons of haze, tons of pollution, and the visibility, in fact, in many areas in India and some other places are down to 2 miles. And that could be playing a significant role in why the temperatures are only 102, 103, 105. Because as you go further into the week, you'll see those models push those temperatures up past 110. But they also take the haze and the pollution out of the forecast. You just have to wonder whether people over there are more experienced in dealing with the accuracy of those models. Perhaps the forecasts should remain at only 105, 104 So that's something which I'm not familiar with. I'm not experienced with that. So, but people in India who, you're probably more experienced with that. Those long-term forecasts. Should we go ahead and say that it actually will be 113, 114 for some of those places in India, or will that pollution save the day? Interesting. The pollution save the day, cool it off to only 104 due to blocking out the sunlight. It's going to be difficult to breathe with all that pollution. They've issued many different advisories in regards to that, meaning an advisory for many different cities. It's the same advisory, air pollution and stuff like that. So I thank you everyone for listening, and I'm sure we have not covered everything. Things will come to my mind after this podcast ends, but we have covered a lot and plenty of excitement. So anybody who wants to look further into the various weather scenarios going on is always welcome to. This is just an introduction and inspiration. Thank you. Have a wonderful day. Have a great week.